Hello and welcome back to Puck Drop. Apologies last week due to Livingston High School scheduling. We could not do a production in person nor virtually. Today we are back in person on our regular Tuesday at a start time of 3:40 p.m. Eastern Time. And today is a very special episode because we don't want to really talk too much about the Devils' recent struggles. We're instead going to talk about the future of possibly the Devils organization as well as any other organization within the National Hockey League's 32 teams. So, Jacob, take it away with the top 10 prospects we're going to review today in our roughly 25 minutes in the NHL to be drafted in the 2022 NHL draft.
Yeah, so we're doing top 10 prospect draft rankings. I have 32 prospects scouted and ranked. I'm going to post on our social medias the link to view the document, not edit or comment, just view the document if you want to check that out. I just want to talk about very quickly a couple of prospects that were honorable mentions to be in the top 10. Connor Geeky of the WHL, Denton Matejchuk of the OHL, Ivan Miroshnichenko, Russian winger, Seamus Casey of the U.S. Development Program, and Jonathan Lekaramaki, center out of the SHL.
I have to say, your pronunciation is exquisite.
Thank you, Ryan.
Phenomenal.
As
always.
So before we really get into it, how it's going to work is Jacob has made his top 10, and obviously Ryan and I have done our research, and we're gonna explain our thoughts on Jacob's top 10 because we thought it would just take too long if we all did a top 10. That would go on for hours.
We did that.
We
did that last year, and it took way too long.
We have a fancy habit of going over time.
We could talk for hours about prospects on this channel.
Talk for hours prospects. Anyway, Jacob, we're going from 10 to 1. Go ahead.
Yeah, we'll start at number 10 where we have Frank Nazar, and Nazar he's an interesting prospect. He's one part of a great U.S. development program, 18-year-old class. Nazar is first and foremost, he's an athlete. While not having the largest frame, his compete level's through the roof. And he's been reliable on both ends of the ice, efficient on getting on loose pucks, always looking to make a play. Nazar is creative with the puck, but carries a chaotic energy with him that you just don't see with many top draft picks. He's definitely a candidate to jump up in the rankings, though, especially if he has a good under-18 tournament.
I agree, and he's one of the smartest prospects out there. And also, I mean, I know you shouldn't really look at scoring when you're a prospect, but he scores at a high rate, and he's committed to Michigan. He's going to play at a great program there. I'd say you underrate him a little bit, but yeah, Frank Nazar definitely in my top 10.
I like his rating of him. I mean, the under-18 center, I think, has a good future. And I'm gonna agree with your rating as number 10. I do think a couple of your honorable mentions that I think might be able to pass him. For example, I like Seamus Casey, but
right.
I mean he is a center, and the Devils could use a center. I mean, we have top 2 line good centers, but our bottom lines have always been on the fluster. But he is a top 10 prospect, so I feel like that is a little unrealistic.
I feel like you can argue centers is what they don't need because they have Hughes, Nico, Mercer, and McLeod. I feel like that's a pretty solid one.
You're putting a lot
But
into
also,
Mercer
let's
and
consider
McLeod.
here, this isn't a Devils
That's
prospect
right.
ranking.
This isn't a Devils show. But I agree with your ranking on Frank Nazar. I think he's a very good player. Under 18, as you said, he's going to play at Michigan. Michigan hockey produces a lot of talent. So this guy's definitely got a future.
He's going to be in stat recruiting
He's American-born, too.
Yeah, he's, like I said, part of a great U.S. Development program. We're going to talk about one other U player in that class
but I will tell you
this ranking, but there are a few more if you want. Again, go on our social medias to read about those prospects.
I will tell you, Rinkside, EliteProspects.com, they think very highly of Frank Nazar. Very highly.
I think Prospects has him like 6 or 7.
They have him, I believe, if I'm taking a look at my notes correctly, yeah, they have him as 7th.
7th, yeah.
Yeah, they have him higher than you. So I agree with your ranking system. There's a lot of talent this year, but I think one thing we'll see this year as we continue on. I'll save it for later. But yes, I think that number 10 is appropriate, maybe a little underrated, but I'd say it's appropriate.
So at number 9, from the Finnish Liga,
Let's hear your pronunciation.
Juraj Slavkovsky, and Slavkovsky is actually Slovakian. There's 2 Slovakian prospects in the top 10, which is kind of crazy. I didn't think that would happen for a long time. Slavkovsky, though, he's playing in the Finnish Liga, 4 points in 21 games there. Despite only having 4 points in 21 games, though, Slavkovsky is most definitely a top 10 prospect in this year's draft. He has a huge frame. He uses to his advantage to compete with men in the league just as a 17-year-old. He has fantastic puck protection, loves to shoot, and he's also a good skater in almost every possible way. And being a
Just gonna
great
say.
skater who is 6'4" and 225 pounds is a fantastic way to get drafted inside any top 10.
The
Now-
speed for a kid like him is staggering. Go ahead.
Now, I think you definitely underrate Slavkovsky here, Jacob. I was debating on putting him in my top 5 because of that physicality. I wouldn't say he's a fully defensive forward, but he really uses his physicality to his advantage, which is something you don't see all the time in young players. Jack Hughes had a size problem. A ton of prospects have size problems, but he's really creative with his size. He uses it to get better control of the puck. So he's not a defense-first guy. Like, he uses his frame to create offense, to create dynamic plays.
He uses his big size better than any other prospect in this draft, and like it's very impressive how many turnovers he can create just from how well he knows how to use his size. You can tell he's been big for a while.
And
Exactly. It's such a unique skill.
The
It's such-
Slovakian-born player has spent a lot of time here in our country playing American-style hockey as well. If I have my notes correct, he played for the Erie Otters of the OHL. So he's definitely got some experience here. He's a big frame, and as I said, he's a fast skater. So I think he's got a lot of potential. I would actually put him up a little higher than 9.
Yes, I was debating putting him in my top 5. In my rankings, I have him as 6, but once again, this is Jacob's ranking.
This is Jacob's rankings.
Well, Slavkovsky competing in these Winter Olympics, we'll get to see more of him there. Moving on to number 8, out of the Czech League is my number 2 ranked defenseman in this year's draft, David Jiricek.
Wow, these pronunciations, I cannot believe it. Continue.
Yeah, David
Very
Jiricek.
impressive.
He's an interesting defenseman. He has a ton of great tools, such as his transitional play, going both ways, defensively and on the offense, his skating ability. There's one big gripe I have with this game, though, that's preventing me from having him as the top defenseman in this year's draft class, and that's just that he takes his game a little too far. For example, he's a pretty good puck handler, but sometimes he'll just try a little too much with the puck on his stick. He also activates from the point a ton, a little more than I like, and he tends to drift away from the play just a little too soon. He's still a great defenseman. He just needs to be coached a little better on some of the smaller things, and those smaller things are what's having me hold him back to number 8.
Now, a controversial opinion here. As you can infer, because you don't have him, you said he's not the top. You probably have Simon Nemec, who we'll talk about a little later, as your top defenseman. My controversial opinion is I think David Jiricek is the top defenseman because I think the flaws you said about him, he tries a little too hard on the play. He mishandles the puck sometimes when he goes too deep, and he activates on the play a little too often. Those can be coached out, I think, pretty easily. And he has dynamic offensive skill, but he's not an offensive defenseman. Like, he's not solely offensive. He can really play some defense, move his stick around, and protect the slot.
So, Jacob, I actually have a question for you. You would know more about this. He stands 6'3", so he's only an inch smaller than our previous player that we mentioned. And he's 190 pounds, so he's a slim skater, to say the least. So he must be pretty quick on the ice.
Yeah, no, he's a great skater.
Yeah,
that's
he must be a
one of
great
his elite.
skater.
He has some elite tools.
Yeah.
I just think it's the fact that he plays in the Czech league, which is not top competition.
But
and
he's
also,
young. He's young.
He is, but he's playing against men, and it's
Exactly, to his
also
credit.
he just has little things that I think are holding him back. Moving on to number 7, we have Danila Yurov. He's played in the KHL and the MHL this year. Yurov he's just a solid player. Not anything great, not anything bad at all, though. Yurov is very easy to project as at least a middle 6 forward, just at the worst, high-end top 6 forward at the very best. He's a pretty decent defensively, smooth edge work and skating ability, knows how to run a power play from the half wall. And Yurov has started the year in the KHL, barely got any ice time, though. Spent a large majority of this recent stretch in the MHL, which is the Russian Junior Hockey League. And even with him playing recently in the MHL, his play has not changed. He's putting up great numbers down there. Good enough for me to have him at number 7.
And it was drafted in Europe, if I'm looking at my notes correctly. They said he's tough to handle when given space to rush down the wing. Tough to handle when given space. So if he's not defensively taken care of off the get-go, he's a force to be reckoned with.
Yes, and I have here he's a 200-foot player, meaning that he's
Great
not.
in both ends.
Yeah, he's a two-way player, and there isn't much to excite about Danila Yurov, but he does have great passing skills. His passing is tape to tape, pretty passes.
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah.
passes.
Yurov has definitely been he's one of the safest picks, especially among forwards in this draft class. Like I said, middle 6 forward, I think is his floor. Ceiling, though, it's not like he's going to be an elite winger. High-end top 6, though. Low-end first line, high-end second line. Definitely, I think was.
He puts up the statistics. I'll tell
He's
you
such
that.
a well-rounded player, though, that I do have him at my number 5. I think
Yeah,
you
he puts
underrate
up
him.
statistics. He's a very high-level player.
All right, well, moving on to number 6, we have Brad Lambert. And Lambert had a slow start to his season in the Finnish Liga. 6 points in 24 games. Bad luck has been a big part of that. It's just 16 months ago, he seemed like he would be a top 3 pick, a lock for a top 3 pick in this year's draft class. That will change because of that slow production. He was traded recently after he put up great numbers, 5 points in 2 games in the World Junior Championships. He was traded. He has 1 goal in 7 games since being traded. His PDO is, which is basically a luck stat, is very low, which kind of shows he's been getting unlucky.
I'll tell you this. He's a dynamic dual force player. He can do a lot on the ice. That already is a high level skill.
And let me just say, he's played on the worst team in the Finnish league for a long time.
Yeah.
So I think that might be holding him back. You can't expect to be a superstar on the worst team in your league.
It's also maturing him at the same time, but I think we should move on.
Yeah, so another Finnish winger who he actually used to play on the same team as before he got flipped was Joakim Kemell. He's who we have at number 5. Kemell's been a goal-scoring machine in the Finnish Liga. 12 goals in 21 games to start his season. Slowed down a bit since, but he seems to just always find himself in the right place at the right time. Solid hockey IQ all around. Extremely creative player. He has good vision. I think his skating leaves some to be desired, which is why I have him a little lower. I think if he was a better skater, I would definitely have him in my top 3, even top 2 possibly. But his engine's always churning. He's got an aggressive mentality out on the ice. Still, I think he has enough skill, enough talent to have him at number 5.
He's a very young player.
Yeah.
Well, all these players are very
All
young.
these guys are young. He's not even 18 yet, but he's got a good shot. That's what they all say about him. He's got a very good shot.
Yeah, great
So
shot.
that I think is probably his biggest talent up on the wings is his shot.
I believe Kemell is the best winger in this draft class. That's why I have him.
I feel like he's a
Number
good.
5.
I feel like he's a good power play punch for teams with his shot. You know.
See, I think you overrate him. I think he is a very good player. Don't get me wrong, but I think he's not. There are more exciting players in this draft to me.
Yeah.
For instance, Juracek excites me. He's a dynamic offensive defenseman. There's not much. I mean, there's goals. He scores, but he doesn't excite me enough to justify putting him at number 5.
Let me just say, this is one of the more scrappier players who likes to go on the attack more. He's not much of a pass creation get-go player. He's more of a let me one time slap shot it, shoot
And I
from
like-
far
I
distance.
like
But
the passing
he
type
still
of
can.
players.
He's fierce and he's erosive with the puck.
Yeah, he still can make plays though. Really solid all-around player in Joakim Kemell. Just wish his skating was a little better. I have him higher.
Right.
On number 4, we have, in my opinion, the best all-around player in this draft class, Logan Cooley.
The best overall player, yeah, he's number 4. I
Really?
like
You-
that.
Best 200-foot
You moved him
player.
down to number 4. Last
player.
time I looked at your rankings, you had a number 3.
No, he's always been number 4.
Oh,
Yeah,
I stand corrected.
Yeah, Logan Cooley committed to University of Notre Dame for next year. Played with the under-18 team last season as a 16-year-old. Did very well. He has great hands, wicked and deceptive shot, a strong two-way game, extremely effective in the face-off dot, as a two-way center would be.
Yeah.
And one of the best all-around players in this draft. Not a single weak point in his game. Solid playmaking as well. He's kind of just a lesser version of Shane Wright.
I'd say that teams that really want to pick him up are teams that struggle with face-offs. He's a face-off kind of guy. He's a two-way back-and-forth hustler kind of guy.
Well, I'm a huge Logan Cooley guy. I think he is the second smartest player in this draft behind Shane Wright. Jacob,
I
you
would agree.
just said that
He's a lesser version of Shane Wright.
he's a lesser version of Shane Wright. I think he
he's
might be
Shane Wright light.
he might be the best.
Shane Wright Light.
Shane Wright light.
That rhymes. That rhymes.
I like that. I like that.
He
Light
might
addition.
be the best. He might be the best playmaker in this draft, in my opinion. I have him at number 3, by the way.
What is most attractive to me and what was most attractive to the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame is his face-off capabilities.
I feel like face-offs is something that
Yeah, it's an overrated
it's a bit of an overrated stat.
I
but
disagree.
I think
I disagree. It creates plays more than enough of the time.
No,
it
I
creates
understand.
plays. It creates
I
goals.
think it could be taught. That's the
It
thing.
creates possession.
It can be taught.
It can be taught, but only the best of the best can master it.
I mean, you still have to be a really solid player to be signed to a Big Ten team. I think we should move on to.
All right, look at the Devils. Face-offs have been
have been
a
an issue.
killer problem.
I think we have
I
more
right?
killer problems than
No,
face-offs,
I'm just
Ryan.
using it as an
Bigger
example.
fish to fry.
Okay, you can run away from this problem.
we
all
don't
you
have
want.
goaltenders,
You can run
you know?
away from this problem all you want. Face-offs win your hockey games. All right. You can argue, oh, it can be taught, it can be this, it can be this, it can be that. If you're going to win face-offs, you're going to have a better shot than the other team off the bat.
Yeah, I agree, but
Yeah,
And it's
I think
really sad
I
that-
think his other skills take him. His
yes,
other skills
you
bring him
can-
to another level.
I agree. Face-offs isn't everything, but face-offs is humongous, and that is why I have him so high. His face-offs reached out to me the most, and that might be why he ends up on the first line sooner than any other prospect, because he wins face-offs.
All right. Well, we agree on his talent for different reasons. Let's
well,
move on.
I think we should move on to the best defenseman, in my opinion, in this year's draft, and Simon Nemec. He is the smartest defenseman, one of the smartest players, I think, in this year's draft overall. Just so great in his own end. Elite stick work. He's a solid playmaker. He has a good first pass out of the defensive zone. Good stick in his own end. He has great vision.
Solid frame.
Yeah, he's big too. Not exactly the most creative player, but he knows how to run a power play and just create chances on the ice. Nothing bad about his game, nothing super flashy, but he's just a really, really, really solid defenseman. We've been seeing those type of guys go really high. Obviously, Owen Power in last year's draft went number 1. 2 years ago, in one of the most stacked drafts of all, and possibly of all time, Jake Sanderson went number 5, and he plays a very similar game to Simon Nemec, in my opinion. I think, and Nemec has been playing in the Slovakian league amongst men. I think if he can prove at the next level, which I'm assuming would be when he comes to North America, that he can keep up his play, he'll be a lock for. He should be a lock for at least a number 4 defenseman on the team.
Now, obviously Simon Nemec is one of the most talented players in this draft. Otherwise, we would not be talking about him. But I disagree that he's the best defenseman in the Czech. I like Juracek more because,
Right.
yes, all the things you just mentioned about Nemec are great. Yes, he has good first pass out of the zone. Yes, he can really see a play very well. He's very smart. However, his transitional play and his play with the puck, besides passing, leaves a little bit to be desired.
He's
in
not
my
a very
opinion,
skillful individual.
Which I think David Juracek makes
I
up
disagree.
for.
I think he's I think Nemec is very skilled. He's just not super creative, and I think there's a difference. I think he has the skill. He just doesn't have the doesn't quite know what to do with the skill. Once he learns, that can be something that's coached. Once he learns, I think he.
But that's not something
he'll
that's
unlock his
more
full
easily
potential.
coached, in my opinion. That takes time. That takes time.
So let me just say, this is a very controversial topic off the bat. I'm going to side more with Jordan, but I'm going to
go.
tell you this. I find this so interesting. FC Hockey rated him as high as number 3 in this draft. Sportsnet put him all the way down at 12. So it's controversial if he's the best defenseman, how high up he really is in the draft. Some people are arguing.
I agree with FC
Sportsnet-
Hockey.
Sportsnet is a very reliable source. They say he shouldn't even be in the top 10.
Look, this is not a very defensively stacked draft. You got Juracek, you got Nemec, and then you don't even have a debate on whether the other ones are in the top 10.
I agree.
Maybe Seamus Stacey.
I'd say I
I
like
would say Nemec is 8-9.
if you couldn't tell by this, I've been talking about Juracek a lot. I'm a big Juracek guy, but Simon Nemec, I mean, he has some flaws, and Juracek makes up for it with more flash, and he could drive the puck. Nemec doesn't have good on the puck play. He doesn't have good transitional play, in my opinion, compared to a guy like Juracek.
So now who's number 2 and number 1?
So number 2 is going to be.
I don't think that these ones are going to be controversial.
Well, it's going to be interesting though because they're both centers.
Yeah, Matthew Savoie is at number 2. He's a center from the WHL. Great consistent production in the WHL. However, a good amount of points have actually not come at 5-on-5 or been primary assists. He's scored a lot on the power play, gotten a lot of secondary assists. It's not the biggest deal. Something you just want to note though. He has a great shot that he doesn't quite use enough. Good positioning, amazing hockey IQ, and creativity. He is so creative. Fantastic playmaking. He actually has good work ethic for his shorter frame. He has smooth footwork and skating ability. Never afraid to shoot the puck from any angle or just try something new with a puck and with his puck retrievals. Creativity can come at a bit of a disadvantage, though, in the defensive zone. I think he tries a lot when he's exiting, and makes him very turnover prone.
It's so funny. He reminds me so much of Jack Hughes. Small 5'7" to 5'10"-ish frame, incredibly fast, brings talent, brings speed, brings the future to a program. I think of him as another Jack Hughes almost, in a sense.
I don't think he'll be as good as Jack Hughes, but yeah, I can see what you're talking
He
about.
definitely can. He definitely can be.
I think
There's not much stopping him.
I think Ryan and
only 18
Jacob
years
have
old.
said all they have to say about Matthew Savoie, so I won't say anything to his skill, but I will say that before Shane Wright went on a hot streak and he was a little slow to start the year, I was high on the train of Matthew Savoie at number 1. Jacob was arguing with me, though I know you like the Matthew Savoie love, but I think he has the highest ceiling in this draft. Can we agree on that?
I would agree.
Yeah. I don't know, because I think we should talk about Shane Wright, who's my number 1 projected
Another
pick in
center.
this year's draft. Shane Wright
Everyone's projected
Shane
number
Wright has
1.
been projected to go number 1 for for a long time now, a few years at this point. After he scored a ton in his 15-year-old season, which is when he was invited to come to the OHL as a 15-year-old instead of as a 16-year-old, which is the normal age. Great vision, great shot, playmaking's off the charts, decent size as well. Shot, though, is one of his biggest attributes. Amazing hockey IQ. He always makes the right decisions. 200-foot player. He's fast. He's an elite prospect said. He's a dynamic playmaker with a sniper's release, so there's virtually no easy way to stop him. I think similar to Savoie, I think he needs to tighten up in his own end just a little bit, but he does this a lot less than Savoie in his more complicated zone exits. But he always seems to be on the puck or in the play. He's just the most impressive player to me in this draft. There's nothing that he's bad at. But unlike some of the other players where there's nothing they're bad at, he's elite at other things.
There's nobody saying he's not number 1.
Yeah.
Everyone knows he's number 1 in this draft.
This might be
Everyone
the
knows
least-
he's a sharp shooter. He's going to be up there with some of the best shooters if he continues to develop like this. He has the sky's the limit type of player, no doubt about it.
He's been on a heater lately too. He has 15 points in his last 10 games in that OHL, 46 points in 34 games now in his draft year.
This might be the least shocking statement of the century because he's obviously the projected number 1, but I will say he's the most NHL-ready player of the draft. I'd say he debuts in his first season. If he, I mean,
Maybe.
I don't think he'll
Depends on
start
who
with.
drafts him.
I don't think he'll start with the team, but I think he debuts in his first season. He's a very NHL-ready player. He has.
You don't think he'll make his NHL debut in his first game? Yes, he will. He will.
Maybe,
He's going to play in the
we'll see.
NHL next year in his whatever team drafts him
That's
first.
quite the push.
Yeah, that is.
Every
heavy
first
push.
overall pick does that, no matter if
Every
they're ready or
first
not.
overall does that, but it also depends on who takes them. There's a lot of other things that
Exactly.
can happen.
There's a lot of factors that go
there's
into
a lot
it, so
that
I
factor
hesitate
into
to say
it.
that.
Not everyone's the New Jersey Devils.
But as I was saying, he's developed the habits of an NHL player. If you watch his tapes, he looks confident in his skills
He
and his
does.
size. He looks confident in his body. He looks confident in what his play style is. He looks like an NHL player to me.
Yeah.
All right, well, just a reminder before we go, wrap up, here's our complete top 10. At number 10, Frank Nazar, Yaroslav Kasi at 9, Jiricek at 8, Yurov, David Danila, Yurov at 7.
Very impressed with these pronunciations. I
Brad
couldn't do
Lambert
it
at 6,
myself.
Joachim Kimmel at 5, Cooley at 4, Nemec at 3, Savoie at 2, Wright at 1. That is my top 10. If you want to look at my complete top 32 and notes for all players, look in our social medias. Ryan, want to wrap things up?
Yes, I do want to wrap things up, and I'd like to thank both of you for joining me today. Hey, for watching, feel free to like, subscribe, comment down below what you think on our YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, PuckDropSource, and our Twitter is at LHS PuckDrop. Remember our YouTube as well as PuckDrop LHS with the P capital, the LHS capital, and the D in drop capital. So thank you very much, guys, for watching, and toodaloo.
Bye.